So we are now here live. Hedi, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you could find your website, all the things that you have, so we could all link up and get people to go to your page and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I like to spread the news about what I went through. I am Hedi Luv of the Unfiltered Rise Podcast, and I am everywhere podcasts are served. I do have a Patreon, and I do have the unfilteredrisepodcast.com. You can find me at all those places. If you want to join our Patreon, you do get 2 extra shows a month. They're usually about 3 hours a piece. Sometimes we throw other ones in there, but they all are about different things than we talk about regularly. We talk about murders, Mormons, and mayhem. Ted Bundy was actually a Mormon. So people don't know that. There's a lot of murderers that have a little Mormon background in them, including Israel Keys and all kinds of people. Jodi Arias is a really famous one, but we do all that on there, as well as a lot of Tim Ballard chat on there. So Tim Ballard, yeah,
That sounds like it's going to be an interesting one. Wow, I didn't know all that stuff. I'm already learning.
Yeah. And so the Mormons are really infiltrated into, I dare say, every branch of the New World Order, and they are very into the occult. They keep this hidden, and even as a LDS member, LDS royalty, LDS pioneer blood on my DNA sample, right? My DNA says Mormon DNA settler, and I mean, it should anyway. They run the website, but we'll get to that. But all of this together with everything else, I decided, this isn't for me. I did find the Lord. I gave my life to Jesus for real. Got rebaptized in a reservoir to no one but God, and just decided I'd go on my own quest, because religion is something that just isn't for me. Now God is for me. The Bible's for me. I'm all about that stuff. But religion, I
Yeah.
don't know about that.
And I agree. Just really quick, I just want to input that a lot of people argue me about this. Oh, I'm not religious, so I don't believe in that stuff. And I try to tell them, look, at religion and Jesus are two completely different things. Jesus is not a religion. He is Jesus. Like, it has nothing to do with religion. He is God, and he is outside of religion, and people just can't comprehend to separate the
It's
two, I
hard.
guess.
Yeah, it's hard for people. I think they want to have a very structured idea of things, and I think religion, it gives them their king. I mean, what happened to Jesus? Like, we didn't accept our savior because we wanted a king. And so we killed him. And I mean, I just don't want to do that in my daily life. I don't condemn anybody else's choices. Even, we're going to talk about some dark stuff today. Even people that choose a dark path, I think they can still be saved later. And maybe, by the grace of God and some of this stuff that we bring out to the light, like maybe they'll see too, because I did. And it took me a long time, you
There's a
couldn't have
lot of
told me. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's a lot of those like a lot of people don't believe in these I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but they call it generational curses. Like, they go back and
Mhm.
they're kind of harder to break. Even if you get baptized, there's still kind of like an attachment there, right?
Well, I had to do some really big work. Actually, that goes into my testimony of how I ended up in the occult world, because that's not really a normal place for this mom of 6 kids. I'm a
Oh wow,
nurse.
6 kids.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a Mormon, not now,
Oh
but
yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about all that. Yeah, they have a lot of kids and wives too, right? Multiple wives.
Yeah. Well, so the mainstream church doesn't. They're the more proper church, and they're really involved with a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. The second branches and there's so many branches. It's kind of like branches of Freemasonry, honestly, at this point. Well, because they are anyway, but that's a whole nother story, right? But the FLDS it holds true to the true words of Joseph Smith, their prophet, to yes, have polygamy, because if you do not have 3 wives, you're not going to heaven to them. So
Oh, interesting.
you don't
Sounds
get
like
your own planet. No
that's cool.
planet for
Oh,
you.
there's planets involved. Okay, cool, cool.
Planets, not now. They'll say that was a lie.
Oh
So
wow.
getting out of this mess, I'm like, okay, God, like, you brought up the perfect thing. I was like, okay, generational curses. Like, I've got all this stuff on my family line. My grandpa, he killed my grandpa's dad killed his brother in a gunfight. And this is not in 19 like hundreds. This was in the 1940s. My family was really interesting, because I had this grandma that was super religious, but this grandpa that was from the south side of Chicago, and he was a situation. He was a 1%er in a biker gang. He was part of, the Sundowners group, and my uncle was the secretary of the Sundowners for many years. They don't write papers really. I mean, a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's not what that means. But anyways, long story short, I have two dichotomies that I'm facing in my life. And I'm like, okay, this lady's not going to jail every other weekend. So maybe we'll do what the grandma's doing because she seems like she's got it together better. I
Yeah.
just don't want to go to jail.
Yeah. I don't
um,
blame
yeah,
you.
I seen them going to jail all the time. I remember visiting my aunts there and like having the toilet paper rolls in her hair and making makeup out of colored pencils and crazy shit. I was like, hey, wow.
Unfortunately, I've been to jail a couple. Sorry, Mike. I've been to jail a couple times, so I know a little bit about all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
my
don't even like
dad was in
smelling bar
prison.
soap. I
Yeah,
can't
my
stand the
dad
smell of bar soap because it reminds me of jail. I'm just like, I don't.
jail. Yep.
Yeah,
My dad was in prison at this time, and so his family was not active LDS at all. So I had some multiple ways I could have gone, but I just knew that my grandma seemed to be the best option. So I did end up being taken away from my family at about the age of 12 for and that's unusual. I'm old, like I'm almost 50. And so to be
look
taken
very
away and
young.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm actually grandma. We
Yeah,
get our
I know. I thought you maybe in your early 40s, 41, 42. You look good.
Yep,
You carry yourself.
thank you. 48 years old and I just I got married really young. I did all the dumb things that, Mormons kind of are pushed into and I did end up living with my grandma at like about 12 because back then it was really hard to actually get removed from your family in the 90s, early 90s. But, my mom was in a bad situation and I had a stepdad that was just really violent and she had moved on from that and just wasn't okay. And so anyway, I became a ward of the court. And I ended up living with my grandma. And so also I became with this allegiance to this woman that I thought, okay, first of all, she has everything figured out. And second of all, she's narcissistic, but I don't even know that yet. Like I don't know anything about that. So I just think she loves me, and if I do what she says, she did. She did. She loved me a whole bunch if I did exactly what she said. So as long as I was going to church and doing the things that made her happy because my grandpa's kids were wild and none of them ever made it to the temple. And for my
Mm,
grandma who is this like pioneer settling lady that's like super good in the all the things, it looked bad, for none of her kids to have made it. So it was all on me. It
oh yeah,
was like, you're going to do it,
the chosen
and
one.
so, yeah, it sucked a little.
So
And
what's this
so
temple though that you're talking about? Is this like a
we're
special
gonna get
temple?
into that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yep, and I'll do that with the slideshow, but I was worried about all these different things in my family line. Like I'm telling you, like my dad's been in prison, he had some things, like my mom had problems, like all this, codependency stuff. Then my grandma's got, these weird generational curses from Mormonism and Freemasonry stuff. And then my grandpa's family's violent and crazy and drunk and like wild, crazy people. So I'm like, okay, God, like just tell me like what I did while I was a Mormon and also how to make this stop. Like, cause my brother had passed away of accidental overdose. Like there was some heavy stuff. And I just was like, okay, I prayed with some true honesty there and just over and over and over. And I got really into Derek Prince videos and I love Derek Prince. And he just was like generational curses, generational. So I'm like, okay, what does this mean? And so I started cleaning my house out, getting the Mormon stuff gone, like getting rid of stuff,
Yeah.
trying to figure things out. And I told God, I be careful what you pray with. Be careful. I said, God, if you will help me with this, I will do anything if you deliver me. And he
Yes,
did.
before. You said that
And then
before.
yeah, and then I was like, had this like on my heart, like you're gonna do. I was a huge podcast nerd. I love research. I was on the debate team. I want to be attorney. Like I ended up being a nurse because I loved it more and it was more honest. But I was like, okay, God, but I don't know anybody. Like, and everybody hates me now because I've left the Mormon church and my grandma's mad at me and everybody's like really upset. And who do you want me to talk to? Like, I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. Like, I don't think I can do that. I don't know how to run the computer good. I'm older. Like I was born before the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, God, like, I don't think I think you think about it again. Get back with me. Right. Like I did one of those to God. Like that's stupid, by the way. And then I did end up hitting up Josh Monday, the Christian Conspiracy podcast.
Oh yeah, I follow him.
And I love Josh. And I said, Josh, you're one of my favorite podcasters. Can you please just do a story about this? And he's like, no, you come on the show. I'm like, no. So it kind of got put into place without me doing anything. And then I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I feel really anxious about it. But here's the research. And I took like pictures of my notes, and he's like, this is great, but you've got to come on. I can't like be you, like you did the work. And I'm like, okay. And he talked me into it. I had my son's puzzle light, my phone. I was freaking out, like completely freaking out. And I did it, and then he gets through it with me, and it's an awesome show. It's about tunnels and Salt Lake City and secrets and Mormons, and he's like, "Wait, Mormons, tell me about this Mormon thing." So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, it's kind of long-winded. Let me come back." So I did. And then 3 times after that, 3 or 4, I can't remember how many shows we did, but he's like, You maybe should think about doing this cuz people like you what you have to say." And I'm like, "Who?" And he's like, "No,
Everybody.
lots of people." Yeah, he's like, and he's like, "No, people wanna hear your story." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, because, Mormons, like, people don't know this stuff." I'm like, "Everybody knows this stuff because I live in Utah." And I'm like, "What?" It was, like, so foreign to me that people really didn't know. I
Yeah.
I I was like, "What?" So God was right and I was wrong. That usually happens, by the way, you guys. Just go with God.
Always.
He knows what he's
Always.
doing. Yeah. And I just was, like, anxious about this, and my first 7 shows, I cried. I could not get them to upload. I didn't know what I was doing. People were so graceful in the podcast community with me. And I finally figured out some things. I had some help from lots of awesome people along the way, and they helped me with interviews and things, and it just worked. And I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, what? And my husband's like, yeah, me either. When's dinner? No, I'm just kidding. But he was like, but really, you're busy a lot. No, he's not that guy. He's sweet.
That's
And
good.
so, yeah, no, he helps with everything. But he was like, you're super busy now. Like, what the heck? And so I just told him, like, I know this is a calling, and it scares him sometimes because 'cause I'll be like, "Guess what I have to do a show on now?" And he's like, "Oh, Lord." And I'm
Yeah.
like, because God will show me, like, in the weirdest ways, like, I'll be reading the Bible, and I was reading the Bible on October 14th or 15th. I can't remember which day it was, but it was, uh it was about the day of Fatima. Do you know the Lady of Fatima
Is that the
is
alien
Catholic?
UFO thing?
Yeah, it was like a Catholic thing, and so but anyway, it's in the Bible about the Queen of Heaven, and I was like,
Oh
"Okay,"
yeah,
so
I
I
know that.
read yeah, I read this part and I'm like, "Okay, cool," and then I shut the Bible, and then I came back from doing something, and I opened the Bible, and it went to the same exact page.
Oh
So I was
wow.
like, "Okay, what am I missing?" Right? Then you're paying attention. So I read it again, and then I looked up what day it was, and it was the day of the Lady of Fatima, which is actually a representation of the Mother in Heaven. So I was like, "Okay, do a show about this." And my husband's always like, I don't like it when stuff like that. He's very nervous about like the esoteric
Yeah.
because I get into some dark shit to expose the dark stuff.
I
Like,
mean, you have to. I mean, you have to. That's like me going into a boxing match and now studying my opponent. Like, I mean, you have to know.
exactly. And
It's
everybody
common
gives me
sense.
crap about it. Yeah, because they're like,
I'll get over
"Oh,
it.
well, yeah, you're into the occult or whatever." And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not into it." The one quote I've heard the best is, "If you don't want to know anything about the occult wants to know a whole lot about you." And so, yeah, I started that whole journey and found out that my religion is basically, well, not mine anymore, but my childhood religion was basically a huge occultic religion, and I had no idea. And so that was scary,
Yeah,
honestly, and that leads us to where we can share this screen, and I'll show you my, little slideshow here. So,
I can't
it's
wait.
kind of interesting. Yes, and that's why I did it this way because I was like, "Well, this a picture is worth 1,000 words," and for Mormons, as I'm trying to reach them, I know for me, Mormonism would be like, "Yeah, right." If somebody told me this stuff back in the day, I would be like, "You're crazy, though." And so
Yeah,
now I know, like, enough to know bring some proof to the table, right?
yeah. I've
Bring
heard
some
some crazy
receipts.
stuff before. Like I told you, that guy Bill Snowblin, he was saying like there's like a whole werewolf.
Yeah, I've never heard that. I
The
have
Mormons,
never
and he's like very like serious about it. He has like all these pictures and like he's done a lot of podcasts, but he swears that there's like a whole one of these
I I wouldn't doubt
denominations.
it. You know what? I'm going to show you guys some things, and then you can take what he said and what I'm saying and know that magic is real. If
Okay.
you don't want to believe in magic, that's okay. But I will tell you this, like, the practitioners of magic know the Bible better than you do. The dark practitioners of magic know a lot of things better than you do, and they will use it to their advantage
And
every
that's
time.
sad that they know more than us about the Bible. That's pretty sad.
Yep. Yep. They study it inside and out. And I'll tell you what, like, this stuff that we're going to get in today will show you this. And so, can you see this slide okay with
Yeah, it
Joseph
says,
Smith's
yeah.
family? Okay, perfect. So, this is Joseph Smith's family. And we can't understand who Joseph Smith, the creator of the church, was without knowing like a little bit about his past history. It's just like what I gave you about me. So, Joseph Smith's grandpa was named Azael.
Oh yeah, like the
Like
angel.
Ezekiel? Mhm. So, I don't think that any true blue Christian is gonna name their kid Azael. That's just my opinion, I guess,
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting, right? And they're also supposed to be, Scottish on the mom's side. Mac is a very Scottish name, yet his name is Solomon, and I find that also curious, right? Solomon's a very Jewish name typically. I'm not saying it can't happen. Sure, King Solomon, all the things in the Bible, sure, okay. But just put it in your back pocket and know these things are here, okay? Then we've got a picture of his mother, and this is Lucy Mack Smith. This is a photograph of her or a rendition. I'm not, it might be a drawing. And so she ended up opening this whole rabbit hole for me where I started really pulling things apart in my own past, and it didn't make any sense to me. So that's why I had to go into the occultic range, because I just didn't know what this meant. So she says to her friend, "Let not my readers suppose that because I shall pursue another topic for a season, that we stopped our labor and went at trying to win the faculty of a brack, drawing magic circles, or soothsaying to the neglect of all kinds of business." Now, she is saying, I'm not lazy. Our family, because they always got accused of being lazy. They were known treasure diggers. Their history was pretty wild. And when you talk about a brack, there's somebody that's involved with that name. Abraxas is a god that is worshipped, and it's still worshipped in Gnostic circles to this day. So this deity is possibly involved in a Christian church, which didn't make any sense to my mind. And I was following these rabbit trails because I'm like, what does this mean? Why? I've only ever heard good things about the Mormon church and this wonderful story that I'm going to tell you in a minute, but like never had I heard magical things. And so I'm like, what does this mean? So when I get a bone, unfortunately, ask my husband, I usually don't drop it. You're going to have to fight me for that. So
Abracadabra.
yeah. Yeah. So the house of a brack, you notice the first words in
Yeah.
abracadabra are a brack. And this is a magical abracadabra like sigil. And they write these to actually make magic. And if you notice that magic is with a K. So this is any word, you using the same mystical formula like over and over in these intentions where they can manifest things. And so this is called an Abrag pyramid, and they just write these little things. So she is
Very neat.
literally talking about magic with a K.
So is that where this comes from? The word abracadabra
It is.
from the Mormons?
No, from magic,
Okay.
Solomonic magic. Yeah, way older than the Mormons. Joseph Smith is said to be from his family, this poor farm family that lives out in the middle of nowhere. They work the land, but they're treasure diggers. It's folk magic. Don't worry about it. It's just water witching with the like divining rods and stuff. No, that's not it. They want to play it off as that because that sounds better, but that's not what we're going to talk about here in a minute. So, this is the story and the picture that hangs in almost every church that I've ever been to. And this is Joseph Smith at 14. He is praying out in the woods because he wants to know which church to join. Now, you have to understand, Joseph lives in the burned over district. Everything is a revival at this point. All these things are happening. His family's practicing who knows what. They say they aren't, but they definitely are. His mom's writing letters about it, and that letter's in the church museum. So Obviously stuff is going on. So when he goes out here, he gets down on his knees to pray, and he sees the Father and the Son. Well, Mormons do not believe in the Trinity. They actually believe these beings are separate. And you have to remember that he also had a fit of darkness come over him, because we're going to talk about other people that had that happen to them as well. They said, "Don't worry about joining a church. We're going to send somebody to you." So they did. So they sent him Moroni, and Moroni is on top of every temple that the LDS church has. Most people call him Moroni because it looks like macaroni, but it's not, it's Moroni. And this guy was actually in the past in America, to Joseph Smith's words, there were Native American people here called the Lamanites and the Nephites, and this guy was one of their Native American warriors. Okay, first of all, it also said he was the whitest person he'd ever seen. He was so white that he was like white and delightsome.
So this guy in the picture who you're talking about is a Native American warrior with the white beard and the
that turned white. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so
Native Americans only have beards.
Yeah, right. And plus, honestly, like,
They don't grow.
I mean, here's the thing. He says that it was an angel, but I just told you he was alive here on earth. Is that an angel?
No.
No. That's a dead guy.
Yeah.
So that's a spirit. So now we are talking about somebody who lives in another realm. Do you know what they call spirits oftentimes that live not here on the like regular earth with us, not people? What do they call the spirits in other realms? Do you know?
Extra dimensionals, fallen angels.
Well, similar. Yeah, I think fallen angels.
Maybe.
Right. Okay. So they call them Elohim. Elohim is a title. It isn't the name of God, although some people use it as the name of God, including the Mormons. But the thing about Elohim is it means people that do not live here in the material world like you and I. They're not human. And so anything that can manifest, like any spirit, whether it be a high spirit, low spirit, angel, fallen angel, who cares, whatever, that's an Elohim, even God. Okay. So all of those things are categorized into that. And I bring this up because Mormons call God Elohim. Well, that's interesting. Put that in your back pocket. So we're going to get into how they say they got these books, these plates. When I was young, for nearly 200 years, the official church story was never promoted that Joseph Smith looked into a hat with a seer stone, blocked out the light like John D., our friend here, and basically channeled this religion. That is not what they told us. They told us this story right here, where there was the plates and he would tell the scribe what they said because he was the only one that could read them, because he had this magical Urim and Thummim glasses, and the angel gave them to him. Okay, so the angel didn't just cough them up either. Just so you guys know, when he had this happen at 14, he had to keep going back every year. Well, guess when he would go back? On the fall equinox. Well, as I start to teach you some things that I think about Mormonism, the fall equinox is very important to sigil magic. On the fall equinox and the spring equinox, you can channel spirits, so they say in the occult, and speak to them because the veil is thin. If you do the right things, if you channel them the right way, if you summon them the right way, and if you wear the correct things. Well, Joseph Smith went on the equinox multiple times, and he tried to get the plates. And even one time, a toad is going to punch him, which we're going to see here in a minute. Eventually, he does get the plates, but there was some bumps along the way. And I'll tell you guys, he had to dress all in black. He had to borrow a black horse and a black switch and a black everything and go in the middle of the night with his little sigil crazy stuff and talk to this angel to get this stuff. That doesn't sound very Christian to me.
No.
So, yeah.
It's
First red flag, right?
Harry Potter stuff going on over here.
I actually just did an episode that is called Joseph's World of Magic, like the Harry Potter
That's what it seems
version.
like. It's
yes,
the same
because
thing.
it's very in depth, and people will like brush this off. It's a really quick explanation, like, "Oh, this happened because folk magic. That's all by." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" Same thing like a handshake for Masons. Nothing is simple, right? Nothing. And so when you start to learn about the occult and the things that they know, like you start to realize everything means something.
Yeah.
Literally. Like
Everything.
everything. It's a horrible rabbit trail when you start going down this. And so Joseph's true story comes out later. I'm already out of the church, and this is what comes out, that he actually is looking into a hat. Whoa, my computer went crazy. And he's looking into this hat with actually a seer stone and channeling this information. Well, if you know, do you know the story of John Dee?
I don't.
Okay, let me give you a quick rundown. This is how I found out about the channeling part of this, not the Solomonic magic part, because that comes later when I was studying something else. But John Dee actually channeled and communed with angels for a long time. I think it was 7 years with his one scryer and 8 with the other. But either way, whatever, he was doing this for a long period of time, talking to angels, literally. And they had a whole bunch of documents. He is actually Queen Elizabeth the First, like he would go in and give her advice. He wasn't really part of the court, so we can't really call her. A lot of people say, oh, that he was her confidant or something, but he was never part of the court. He was just there, but she counted on him for everything. And he was into astrology and talking to angels and all this crazy stuff. Well, he's doing this with his little assistant, second assistant, Edward Kelly, for a long time. And Edward Kelly, people say he's a scoundrel. He had his ears cut off and he did, because he was forging documents. So he probably lied about it all. Okay, let me tell you
Um,
guys something. 8 years of lies, that's a long time. First of all, that's too long to just be a swindler. Number two, he tried to get out of this. He actually ran away twice, and the angels like came after him and stabbed him with swords and all kinds of weird stuff coming out of a book and just crazy stories. And he ran back
um,
every single time. He also got married and didn't want to. He did a whole bunch of things that were like not in his wheelhouse at all. He just wanted the hell out of there after so long. He didn't get paid very well. Like it was just a mess. And eventually the angels are like, okay, you two. And remember, John Dee is a very pious man. He's a Christian mystic, but he is pious.
yeah.
And he's like thinking this is all for God, God's glory. Well, then one day the angels were like, hey, we have an idea. So swap wives, because you should share everything. And so you're not sharing that. So you should share that too. And then at that point, he should have been like, bruh,
Yeah.
no. But he didn't. He went ahead, because you have to think this has been now 15 years of his life. This is his life's work. This was more important to him than anything, including his wife, evidently. And so they go through with it, and she gets pregnant with his kid, with the other guy's kid.
Oh wow.
And yeah, this guy has to raise it till the end of its life. He dies in obscurity. Everybody around him dies of plagues and horrible things. It's not good. The other guy dies by jumping out a window with his legs cut off because he was being held prisoner. It's all bad. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of John Dee. But
She.
also, you have to understand other religions. So, the Prophet Muhammad, people follow him. Well, what did he do? He would walk around, and then a fit of darkness, don't forget that. A fit of darkness would come over him, and he would go down to the ground. And then when he would wake up, he'd say, this is what the angel Gabriel told me, blah, 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 blah. And they would memorize it because they were a non written people. And eventually they did write it down after his death. However, what happens with Muhammad? Was there a price to be paid in that religion? Do you know?
I don't know specifically, but I do know a little bit about him. I do know that he was a pervert, married a little girl.
The little
Um,
girl,
he was just a
pedophilia.
murderer, pedophile, rapist, murderer. I know that.
So,
I know
and
that.
also a polygamist, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I assume, I'm just guessing here, I would assume that his price to be paid was pedophilia and polygamy. Then we get into Joseph Smith's story and what happens with the Mormon church, polygamy and very young girls. So, I mean, people will say it's not pedophilia because they were in their teens, but come on, some of
Yeah,
these, they
it's
were kids, they were 15. I mean, they were
people
young.
that argue that just check their computer. I bet they're perverts. Like, how are you gonna defend that, man? Like, you
Yeah,
can't
they were
defend it.
young.
Yeah,
They were,
way
these
too
are,
young.
and it was, an exchange. We can do a better, more fun one. Let's do Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley didn't see an angel, but he did see an alien. and his name was Awas. And Awas came to him and said, write this stuff down. And it became a book, and it became Thelema, which is a huge religion. Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard out in the desert doing crazy Babylon workings. And it's disgusting. And you can read about it your guys' self. But they already made the exchange at the time in the desert by masturbating, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens? Then the entity comes and says, write this down. And what happens? It becomes Scientology. So this is repeated over and over and over. And it makes me wonder, because I studied a whole bunch about Martinism, which we'll get into. But one quote from the guy that was communing with angels on this was Saint Martin. And Saint Martin was quoted as saying, don't talk to the angels. In fact, he was quoting in the Bible the verse, get away, seraphim, for I do not want anything to do with you. So it's curious that these religions often start out this way. Again, the Mormon church did start out this way, though they denied it for many years. The president, prophet, seer, and revelator of the church came and got this hat out of the freaking, I don't know where it was, archives of the universe, brings it out and puts it on for a photo op that year, just barely, a couple years ago. And all of us, that especially older Mormons, were like, holy shit, South Park was right. Wow. Okay.
So these hats did
That's
Abraham Lincoln
Joseph
have a hat like
Smith's
that?
hat. Yeah, but
Abraham
this
Lincoln
hat
had one.
was
Oh,
they all, yeah, and Masons are known for wearing top hats, but this was the hat. This
okay.
is Joseph Smith's hat. And so
Oh, okay.
also, if you know about magic at all, this is also very important. I thought that was curious. They stuck that on the table. But they're just trying to do like a little recreation, I'm sure, right? Nothing means nothing. But you have to know a little bit about that this current prophet of the church, president, prophet, seer, revelator, Russell M. Nelson, he was part and is part of the University of Utah's secret society, Skull and Bones. The Skull and Bones Society here in Utah was actually sanctioned and set up by Yale. It was set up by the Skull and Bones Society of Yale, and it was set up a long time ago. I'm talking about like probably like I think it was 1900s, 1800s late.
Yeah.
So this happens, and also they steal something from kind of them, like they call it scroll and key. When you look up the Skull and Bones Society, it's owl and key, like owl, like the animal, for this. And so he is a member of both. The current prophet of the church is as big of a wreck for the Mormons as the current pope. Okay. He's into some crazy stuff. His daughter's been, fingered in a SRA huge case called the Pace Memorandum. You guys can look that up on I have a full episode on that on my show. But like this stuff gets weird. And honestly, most people would have been dismissed, but he was not.
Wow.
So again, I just put this in here to show some of these magical workings and things that magicians have. This is a tarot card, but you'll see the dagger and the cup. You'll see the wand. Okay. You see the pentagram. You see these things that are laying out, and all of these things mean something. Okay. These are magical working utensils. And I dare say that Joseph Smith was born knowing that he would be a magician. His father ran around town screaming how he was born in a caul, which means he was born in the sack, still intact, like the water bag. And it was a sign. This is a sign that he's going to be a prophet, seer, and revelator, not of the LDS church, because it wasn't a thing then, just a seer. He could see things. And so he had been told this from a very young age. Joseph Smith's rendition that's more truthful than the one I showed you that the Mormon church put out before is this. And this layman holder around his neck is very important. We will get into what that holds. It holds sigils. He has his seer stone in his hand. He has his hat. And this is more accurate rendition of what was really going on. So this is the actual stone. It is like often photographed and shared with the universe now. Willard Chase found this rock on his property. Joseph Smith was there helping dig a well. Joseph said, "Can I borrow your stone because I want to look at it?" And he never gave it back. So literally, Mormonism is built upon a stolen rock.
What's the whole point? Like, was it a special stone that he found? I mean, What?
These seer stones often have properties of magic, just the same as our friend John D here. They used a scrying mirror, but actually it wasn't a mirror, it was obsidian, and obsidian is a stone. And so it's black, it's completely black. You can't see a reflection in it or anything. But mirror magic is also used oftentimes. But these types of things, he had up to 5 or 6 different stones that we know of. This is another one, the green stone. They all were used to basically channel things, and they usually have magical properties like quartz and different things in them. So, the artist rendition of this stone, even though they like to say the brown stone was more important, I say in my conjecture, and I will tell you when I'm thinking something versus knowing something, that this stone is actually way more important. And I say that because they've never let it be photographed ever. This is a rendition. I find that very curious. So
Why can't you
that
take a
is,
picture of it? It's gonna mess up the properties or something. I mean,
I wonder, the Amish have a thing about not having their picture taken for those exact reasons. So it makes you wonder, they've got it locked up too. They've got tunnels. I'm not kidding. There's tunnels and all kinds of things underneath Salt Lake City, and they have vaults and different stuff. So,
oh yeah.
um, this is the story of the toad that I told you that was guarding the plates when he went to go get them one year. And he tried to pick them up before the angel was ready. And he said, "No, you can't have them." And so what happened was this toad got pissed and became a man. Now that becomes very important, and punched him in the face.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
So you have to understand something about toads. Okay. Because toads are witches' familiars. Toads are often associated with black magic, but this story gets transferred into something different. This story gets transferred into something called the salamander stories. And this gets all transformed into something completely different with magical property wise. I didn't put the salamander in there. A white salamander is known to be a symbol of the Rosicrucians. It is a symbol of alchemy because they say that the salamander can go through fire and live, but a toad is actually associated with witchcraft and black magic. So this guy named Mark Hoffman in like the 90s, 80s, I can't remember exactly when, but I think it was the 80s. He starts like swindling the church and writing fake like notes and stuff, and this whole toad salamander thing comes up. My conjecture is they did that on purpose to get the like focus away from this toad and make it the salamander and make it ridiculous. Because now, whenever you hear this story, if you go up to somebody and say, "Did you ever hear about the Mormons and a toad?" They'll say that was a salamander, and Mark Hoffman's a liar and he's in prison. Oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay, because the church ran with it and they published it everywhere. Fun fact is, Mark Hoffman, supposedly a murderer, murdered a bunch of people and was trying to cover his tracks of forging. But the funny thing about Mark Hoffman is he got arrested and he sang like a canary to everyone that would listen. And then one day he tried to not be alive anymore, apparently. And he laid on a cold, hard floor in the middle of the prison for over 12 hours. The shifts are not like that. He's in an isolated area. They have to check on you
Yeah.
frequently. And he's not in Gen Pop. And so they have to check on them even more frequently. Well, supposedly nobody did that for 12 hours. Sounds
Yeah.
weird.
Murdered.
But yeah, doesn't happen. And so he's laying on his arm the whole time, his right arm. And don't worry, Mark Hoffman's okay, but he has permanent neurological damage to his forging arm. You tell me what happened there. I think it
Oh,
sounds weird.
that's great.
Yeah, I think they orchestrated all that. But that's just my conjecture. So, this is a little rendition again of more times when they were out treasure digging. They were known as treasure diggers. His father was an absolute treasure digger, and they're out digging and making these. This is actually from an affidavit on a court case about treasure digging because the Smith family got sued, specifically Joseph Smith, because he sucked so bad at treasure digging that people were like, "Bro, you have to stop." And he didn't. And so they took him to court. So this story is actually word for word verbatim by the Willard Chase family about how this was. And this is what came up. These signs and symbols mean a whole lot. And he describes them specifically. He also was the one that described about all the black clothes and everything. And you have to remember, neighbors back then, you needed your neighbors. You're living far away from everybody. So this is kind of important. People will just blow this off and say, oh, well, he just hated Joseph Smith.
Was he
So
like making a mess? Is that why they sued him? He's just ruining the area.
he was stealing people's money and not ever finding anything. It's very
Oh, okay.
rare for somebody to get sued for treasure digging back then because it was done a lot, but the way they were doing it was very occultic. So
Okay.
Joseph would be in the house scrying with this peepstone and everything while they're out digging, and they would come back and forth and he would tell them what the spirits were saying. So
Uh,
he actually was taken to court and fined. This is a real thing. All of these accounts are affidavits. They're not just like Johnny said such and such. This is court.
$2.68. Wow.
Yes, because it was kind of a really small crime, but the fact remains, he was sucked at it bad enough that this is what
He got in
happened.
trouble.
So
Yeah, he was doing something, pissing everybody off.
he was, because he wasn't ever having any good stuff come out of it. So again, like I told you, Willard Chase documented exactly what was happening with this whole circle. Then they sacrificed a black sheep, it slit its throat and bled it all over that circle, and some crazy stuff went down. So this gets into why. Why would you do such a thing? Joseph Smith was also known for killing dogs, you guys. He wasn't a good guy. So Joseph Smith owned this particular thing. These are all magical relics. We're going to get into this part of it at this point. And Joseph Smith had this on his body, on his person when he died. And this is called a Jupiter talisman. Now, the Jupiter talisman, it was one of his most prized possessions. The reason why we know it was his and not his brother's, because they did die together, is Emma wanted this back. That's his wife. And it also demonstrates his fascination with magic. People that have talismans are usually not brand new to magic. They had this created or created this themselves because they had quite a bit of magical knowledge. And this magical knowledge back then came from the Magus or Sibley's witchcraft book, or the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. Now, when I'm speaking of these dark books, you notice this right here. Let me do this so you can see the sign. And this right here is identical.
Yep, same thing. Yep.
So this is what led me to the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon and Solomonic magic, because I didn't know anything about that. I thought this was all our boy John D, and he does something called Enochian magic, but he was also practicing that by scrying. There's no doubt Enochian comes into play. However, Solomonic magic is dangerous, and it's still done to this day. If you do not know what you're doing, if you look this up in any Reddit group and be like, how do you do Solomonic magic? They will like flip out on you. They will say like, you shouldn't be doing that. That's really scary. Like this can go really badly for you if you don't know what you're doing. So obviously it works because people still practice it. And also it's dark, as in, you're not always communing. You don't know who you're
Yeah.
communing with.
Nope.
So yeah, you're doing some things you probably shouldn't. So this particular pentacle, the third pentacle of Jupiter, says, this defendeth and protecteth those who do what? Invoke and cause the spirits to come. Cause the spirits to come. Not that they're there, not that the neighbor did it. What did they say? Words mean everything. Those who invoke cause the spirits to come. He is clearly invoking magical spirits. And actually, he says he talked to 26 dead people and or angels, including John the Baptist. And so he doesn't deny it. Only the Mormon church does. So this gets hairy because you have to understand, at some point, the church wants to get away from this and look
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
And they do a very good job of it. Yeah.
And that's also very obvious that he wasn't talking to John the Baptist or anything like that. He was talking to
They
familiar
lie.
spirits, and
Yeah. They
that's
lie.
all
The
bad. That's
spirits
all.
lie.
That's just a Ouija board, an old way of doing it, I guess.
Worse, even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Zachary King, who was a high satanic wizard in the black magical occult, okay? He talked to me and he said to me, this kind of stuff, when they're doing this, even my very first thing that I ever communed with came from just a regular mirror. So it's not like you need 100 things, but he had them. So what does that tell you about this guy? He's into it, right? This is this is not like he looked into the mirror and played Bloody Mary once or did the Ouija board once. He's got all these items. So I mean, let's get real. Let's call it what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. He was a magic practitioner. If the Mormon church doesn't like that, I'm sorry. That's who your prophet is. That's who you base your stuff on. But don't come at people and say it's not true because there's artifacts. Let's get real now. And
Yeah.
documents. Yeah. So the seal of intelligence of Mars is engraven on this. Now, how scary does that sound to you? The seal and intelligence of Mars. No big deal, right? Would you just read over that? Not even
I
because I
mean,
did.
well, with what I know now, I mean, I wouldn't, but a couple, 10
Right,
years ago, yeah, I'd be
before.
like,
Yeah.
what's this sword about the planet or what? You know what I
And you
mean?
might look up the seal, but would you look up something called the intelligence of Mars? Probably not.
No.
What is an intelligence? I'll tell you. In the greater and lesser keys of Solomon, an intelligence is a demon. Demons are lower ranking than angels, and they're easier to get to do your bidding because they are a lower status and they are like lower literally to us. Okay. They are lower to the earth. They can be communicated with easily. And so, literally, he put that on this knife. This is a sacrificial dagger, but it also is sometimes used as a wand. It does have a prayer on it for, if they're sacrificing the sheep and stuff like they said. But it makes you wonder. So there's already the spell on the knife. They don't have to say anything when they're doing this. The whole thing about magic is it's a hand signal. It's a this, it's a that. They're not doing crazy stuff right in front of you. People would be like, what the hell is going on here? Like they do that in private, but they do things in front of us all the time. They can cast spells with hand movements, period. And they do it all the time. They're called mudras. And so this copy here shows exactly what's on this. And there's multiple meanings for this. Again, here's the actual engravings instead of the little copy that I showed you there. And here's the table breakdown. It will tell you in the lesser and greater keys of Solomon. If you want to look this up, the best book I've seen on this is Stephen Skinner's book, and it will go through all of this. Okay. So people will say, well, everybody knew he was a master mason. Well, that is true. Joseph Smith was a master mason. His brother, do you know anything about masonry?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not a professional, but
Okay, enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know enough. Yeah.
So let me tell you his brother's name. His brother's name is Hiram.
Oh, okay. There you go. It's like,
Like Hiram Abiff. Yeah. So it's hysterical. That's like one of the main stories of Freemasonry.
I mean,
So
with
yeah.
the Freemasons and the Mormons, I'm gonna assume that they're all connected. They're all sharing information, same
So,
gods, same rituals,
well,
kind
sort
of.
of. I want to say this. Originally, when I very first started studying this, I thought it was all John D. Enochian magic. And I thought, okay, Freemasonry combined. No, there is a magical order, and this is it. This is called the Martinists, and the Martinists are alive and kicking today. They actually practice magic, and this is what they are. They are a French Freemasonry order. They were way before the Scottish Rite, way before. The Scottish Rite was only reorganized maybe about 70 years when Joseph Smith came on the scene. That's really early to have somebody be so adept at this, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know everything because it's only been around 70 years and it had to get to America out of obscurity. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, that's ancient.
So, yeah, this order was way older than that. And I was like, who went to France? Who the hell went to France and hooked up with Joseph? I want to know where this came from. So that's the rabbit hole I went down. Well, I found my answer. Actually, he was hooked up with a guy named Lumen, like light bearer. Yeah, it gets so good. Lumen Walters. So Lumen Walters actually had just come back from France. He was considered a traveling doctor, but he wasn't really a doctor. And he actually got ran out of the town for being what? An occultist. They said he came back from France soulless and against God. And I'm pretty sure he was practicing Martinism. So I'm pretty sure he showed Joseph this because what Martinism is, not that I'm condemning people that choose to do it, it's Solomonic magic and it's Freemasonry had a baby. And so they mix them together and they are not just learners of the craft. Scottish Freemasons sometimes can be, magical practitioners, but not all of them, not very often at all. Whereas Martinists always are practitioners. That's a different thing. That means you're actually doing the magic and they're very quiet about it. This is a very obscure order. And I have a whole show on this. And it talks about how it became and who brought it to. And it's very old. It's actually from Haiti. It's black magic from Haiti,
Okay.
mixed with some really other weird stuff. So, and that's all about. Ooh, this is being
Ooh,
naughty
what's
today.
that?
Right there. This is the sign for the Martinists. This is the three inventors of the Martinists. So the Martinist order was invented by Pasquale, who's in the middle, and then Saint Martin and Willermos, and they go three different ways, and it actually ends up being a part of the Scottish Rite because the Willermos guy ends up organizing the CBCS, and that turns into the Scottish Rite. So when you guys are talking about Freemasonry, it can be, I thought it would be like, oh, and then I'm going to study this and then I'll know. No, there's like thousands of orders. You will never know. You will never know all of them. And neither will I. No matter how hard I study, there's so many. Like every time you think you have an answer, you're like, oh my gosh, there's 700 more. Great. Let's study all these. And I just, I got pretty much an idea of what this is, but I'm never going to have full knowledge.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. I've probably spent over 150 hours studying Freemasonry and Martinism. Like it's crazy. When I was looking to go find a free download for the Lesser and Greater Keys of Solomon, when I read all that about the Jupiter Talisman, I found it and it made me laugh. So I put this in here because Brigham Young University, the Mormon college, uploaded it to archive.org.
Of course they did.
Yes, they did. Ain't
Rewritten
that
too,
alive?
probably.
Yeah, alive and well. Here's another picture of Solomonic magic. This is just, this goes on to this day. But if you notice, these tables really, really familiar to what we had there with Joseph. So all of this stuff is alive and well, like I said. Now we're going to get into what was on Joseph's neck. Remember about that little pouch. So that pouch is a layman holder, and this is a layman. And lamans are actually sigil magic. Each one of these symbols means something, and they're all decoded here for you guys. I'm not going to go over each one of them, but I will explain a couple things. Okay, so this is a calling down to an angel. People say, oh, angels, great. Well, wait a minute. First of all, there's imposters. Second of all, I've talked to Dr. Justin Sledge of Esoterica, and he did tell me one thing. He is an actual doctor of esoteric studies, and he is Jewish. He said this. He said, in Jewish studies, we do not talk to angels. In fact, they're terrifying because they are so militant that they really don't care about you. And if you invoke one and you happen to get the right one and they didn't lie to you and they're actually some weird demon, you might be not happy with your result. And I was like, oh, like what? And he's like, okay, let's use example of you want to never drink again. Okay. You want to never drink again. You want to be sober. And they'll come and say, are you sure? Yes. I want to be sober more than anything. You're sure about that? Yes. Okay. So then they put them in prison and then they're sober.
Oh, it's kind of like that reminds me. Have you seen that movie, the Wishmaster?
Yep. Be careful what you
So
wish for.
so every wish that you get, you have to like really explain it, or else it's gonna be something like that. Like in that case, you have to be, I want to be sober, living my regular life, out of jail, and everything's the same as it is now. Otherwise, you're gonna get caught up with that. Like in the movie, they would say, I want to be the most beautiful woman in the world, and then he'll turn her into a giant statue and for the whole world to
Right.
see, but she'll be dead. You know what I mean? Like it's just you have
Mm-hmm.
to be really careful with
Exactly.
your words. Yeah.
So Dr. Justin Sledge said, actually, we would much rather speak with demons on the Jewish level, not that they do that. He's just explaining like the levels because they are lower and they have to sometimes do what you say. Well, okay, this is a calling down directly to Raphael, the angel Raphael, and there's multiple other angels involved here. But see how these sigils right here have the circle around them? This is a command. These are commands that you must do what I say. You don't get to choose if you want to do what I say. This is the actual symbol on there. You notice it's identical. These are from the Book of Witchcraft, from Sibley's Book of Witchcraft. Tell me what a Christian guy is doing with stuff like this. It's also the same symbols that were drawn in the dirt with his dad's rusty sword. So this is not my thing is I don't care if you want to practice magic. Look, I don't. I want to save people that want to be saved, but you can't save people that don't want to be saved. So you just can present information and say, I hope I'll pray for you. That's all I can do. However, Mormons are lied to. Mormons are lied to from the get-go, and they are told all of this is secret. We don't even know we're Masons. I didn't even know what a Mason was until I got out of the church. And then they tell you it's all about going to heaven. Okay. So this is why I, as an ex-Mormon, am pissed off and speak out, because this is leading people totally into the dark side with no knowledge of it. They don't know. The people in the middle are just ignorant to all of this. And
Yeah.
so that's wrong. That's wrong. You should at least know, if you are a Freemason, you may be lied to, and you will be. You'll get hoodwinked. Don't worry about it. But you also kind of know that. You also kind of know when you go pledge that you might have to do some weird stuff in secret societies. But Mormons, they don't tell us any of this. Nothing. Nothing. And so it pisses me off. So that's why I talk about it. And so these two seals, when they are in a seal like this, they are bound and have to do what they say. However, if it's an open marking, like how this Raphael star doesn't have a seal around it, that means the person is actually communing with that spirit and has a working relationship with them. So it's interesting, right? And this also talks about like bearing homage, like all this stuff that was on that paperwork that I showed you that he carried with him, like all the time. And so, he had it on him at his death, and they tried to blame it on the brother. And I'll tell you why I don't think so. So, all of these markings are all decoded for you. And on top of it, this angel right here is even a Freemason password. So whatever. It's all intertwined right here, Juban Ladace. And so you can read through all these and see what they mean and all the things, blah, blah, blah. And then here's more. It keeps doing that. I don't know why it keeps popping me past my page. I don't want it to do that. There we go. This is another layman that was in there at the time of his death. Again, we're talking about the same seals, different angels, pentacles, pentagrams, all the things like that. It's all summoning. It's all about summoning. So
It looks like a galaxy.
it totally does. And
I
then
don't
we
believe
get
in all that.
into, why would somebody even bother, right? Like, why would you even do magic? Like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, what are you getting out of it? Like, what are you going to get out of it? Right? Oh, well, let's check it out. And don't forget, he was talking to what? Dead people, right? Dead people. Like, I'm sorry to say, no matter how holy it is, and even if he got the right guy, John the Baptist is dead, period. He's dead. And what does it say in the Bible? Absence of the body is presence with the Lord.
Mhm.
So I highly doubt it's him anyway. But even if you got lucky and got him to come down, because there is summoning in the Bible, and he was pissed. He was like, "What are you doing? Why are you summoning me here?" It can happen, but I don't think they're going to be as kind and lovely as you think.
Yeah.
So
They try to use that
this,
story where Jesus summoned somebody, didn't he?
I don't think it was Jesus. I
Or
think it
someone
was
got summoned.
Solomon. Was it
And
Solomon? I can't remember.
but anyway, I think Jesus was like, he was there or something. He's like, hey, you shouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Yep. Go home. Yep. Bye bye.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to be doing this stuff. And so this is a little excerpt from the newspaper. This was really ran by Joseph Smith's father. Now remember, I told you he didn't get the plates right away. He had to keep coming back. Well, one of the times when he came back, the angel said, "Hey, bring your brother. Okay, your oldest brother. I want to talk to him." And he's like, "Cool. Okay, whatever." But he can only do this on the fall equinox, so he has to wait. Well, in between the last time and the next time, his brother dies. So can't bring him. So this was ran 4 or 5 times in the Palmyra paper, and it just basically says, "Hey, we have to dig up our son because you guys said we dug him up, and we didn't dig him up, but we're going to dig him up to show you we didn't dig him up." What? Oh, okay. Cool story, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you digging dead guys up? And he's like trying to make it out like, "Oh, you guys all talk shit on us. So we're going to do this because we're going to cover us and blah, blah, blah. And look, we didn't do anything." Okay. Who said you did? But I guess apparently they said he did. But I still think that's a really weird way to go about showing that you didn't. because now everything's been disturbed. And basically, it's like the best pre-gaming ever. Because then if somebody says, we saw him digging up his kid, he's going to be like, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And so everybody jokes, because don't forget about Skull and Bones connection there, that maybe the brother that's passed away, the oldest brother, which means a whole lot in magic, had a hand in Mormonism, right? Maybe they grabbed some bones out of there. I can't prove that. That's my joke. But look up the stuff in Skull and Bones. You, you know. So all of
Hitler.
this is all of this is used, and all of this stuff that we're talking about gets into weird necromancy. This picture right here is a baptismal font with all the oxen, and they go here as children to the temple, which isn't a church. The temple is special. You cannot just go in the temple. You have to have a recommend, you have to have an interview, you have to pay your full tithing, there's a lot of hoops to go through. Or you have to be a kid from the ages of 12 to 18 to do baptisms for the dead. So
Wow. That's
when you're
insane.
baptizing dead people, you get a paper like this, and it says, this is who you are today. We're going to baptize you, and you are the proxy for the dead person. And they call you by their name. They did Adolf Hitler. They baptized him, sealed him, and did all of this stuff for him. This is his record. And you will get this little paper that says, I am this person today. And you literally act on behalf of that person, which is necromancy. And
That's
so they did.
insane.
They also
That's
did
insane.
all of the Jews that died for what they believed in, and Anne Frank, and Obama's mom, and Marilyn Monroe, and Elvis Presley, and probably every person you've ever heard of. And I'll tell you why, but not yet. So again, we get into weird dead people stuff. They also dug up Joseph Smith and his brother that died together, and they dug them up and took them out of their gross, rotting, nasty coffins. Because remember, no embalming and stuff back then. This is just in the box you go. And they made canes out of the dead, gooey coffins and gave them to everybody. But before they, put them in a new coffin, they also braided pieces of their hair and put it in the knob.
That's
So
disgusting.
there's the proof right there. So the
Jeez.
knob of this coffin cane bears the inscription presented by Brigham Young to Sidney Rigdon, which they're both very important players in the Mormon church beginnings. It is one of 2 coffin canes on display of the church museum. So this is literally at the church museum. I'm not making this up.
I don't believe you are. This is crazy. It doesn't even sound like we're talking about the Mormons. It sounds like we're talking about
No,
some kind of
sounds like
demonic cult.
craziness. Yeah,
Yes,
it
it's
is.
crazy.
And also, these coffin canes were extremely important. And one of the other prophets later down the line said these coffin canes were critical later in life, like when the end of the world came, like they were going to have all this power and stuff. So
Oh my
I
God.
don't doubt that, because you have to understand, when you have a wand, a magical wand, sometimes the wand is small for casting or whatever. But what did Gandalf have in Harry Potter, right? He had a
Staff.
staff. And Joseph Smith had a serpent cane. And
Kind
it
of like
looks like a
Moses.
snake. Yeah, it looks like a snake. But also this inscription here, JS. But look closely, an upside down cross. Now you have to understand about Mormons, they hate the cross. They hate the cross. They think it's sacrilegious. If you ever wore a cross to church, you would get the evil eye on you for sure. It also has what? A crowning king. It has 3 entities here, because remember, they don't believe in the Trinity. They believe in separation. Also, they believe that Mary was actually knocked up, like they did the deed, like sexually,
Yeah.
and that Jesus was made the same way any other man was made. So, and that he became a god later, and that we can all become gods if we just do what we're supposed to do.
Sounds like the devil to me.
It's definitely not good. So I'm going to show you what happens in the temple, but this is just a little tiny recreation that somebody else did. And this ceremony is far longer. This is just one tiny little teeny piece, but I think it speaks volumes. So I'm going to play it for you. It is a recreation, and I will tell you the parts that have changed.
What you are seeing is an authentic first time ever on film reenactment of secret Mormon temple ceremonies that even most Mormons have never seen. And those who have sworn never to reveal these secrets under penalty of death.
The execution of the penalty is represented by placing the right thumb under the left ear, drawing the thumb quickly across the throat to the right ear, and dropping the hand to the side.
All of us who've been through the temple have sworn solemn oaths consenting to having our throat slit and our heart and our vitals torn out.
The execution of the penalty is represented by drawing the thumb quickly across the body and dropping the hands to the side.
In the Mormon temple marriage, the partners are sealed to each other for time and all eternity in Mason-like rituals. And without this ceremony, no one can enter the presence of Joseph Smith and become a god.
Hey, lay, ale. Brother Pratt, having authority, I wash you preparatory to receiving your anointings for and in behalf of John Kimball, who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
Sister Bradford, I wash you preparatory to you receiving your anointings for and behalf of
Eliza Barrett,
who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
I wash your head, that your brain and intellect may become clear and active.
Your eyes, that you may see clearly and discern between truth and error.
Thousands of occultic ceremonies each day are performed for the dead, so that they too can receive the benefits of Mormonism. Mormons are encouraged to have encounters with the dead, and it's not uncommon for demons impersonating the dead to appear to Mormons stating that they've been converted to the Mormon church in the spirit world and now want their family history traced.
Your loins, that you may be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, that you may have joy in your posterity.
Your vitals and bowels, that they may be strong and healthy and perform their proper function.
Your breast, that it may be the receptacle of pure and virtuous principles.
Man, what a
Okay, so
weird.
they don't grip your boob, but you are well, you used to be naked. When I went, you were naked and just had like a poncho over you.
Yeah.
And then it was slit up the sides like they showed them, but everybody was pissed off about it and they were like, no. And I remember complaining about it to my great grandma and she was like, I had to be naked. So I was in a tub, all kinds of weird stuff with oil. I don't know, but it was weird. And
Wow.
so some of this stuff has evolved. Like now it's a baptism suit. They do touch above your breast. They don't cup your boob. They made that a little dramatic, but all of the rest of it's pretty accurate. They don't do the killing sign anymore. I actually think I know the reason, and it's because of another book. This book, this guy, I know this. Okay, so the story of these brothers under the banner of heaven. This story is only sort of true. I mean, it's true, but talking to the surviving husband, he says some of it isn't. But anyway, basically 2 guys get really into Joseph Smith's teachings and they go crazy and they decide to blood atone the sister-in-law because she's not minding, and they slit her throat like what they're showing you. So, and then they killed the baby and almost cut her head off. So this was some bad PR for them. And so I think they were like, no more slitting throats, because like they did.
Man, they look like a bunch of Islamic terrorists the way they're dressed, and then what they're doing,
Right.
it sounds like the same thing. I was trying to cut everybody's head off all the time or slip.
Yeah,
someone's
and
throat.
then they're also doing a ton of Freemasonic stuff, but also some of this goes darker. And when you're talking about like the OTO, like if we go back, sorry about that, wrong side. If you go to this, they're wearing a one-sided robe because you have to have your other nipple exposed, right? So that you can prove you're a man. That's like what it used to be. These aprons are green. They're representative of fig leaves. Other people like in the OTO, they are naked like underneath, but OTO is Ordo Templi Orientis. That's Aleister Crowley's form. Why we're doing things that are similar, I do not know. I would love to know. But obviously it's not Christian. The women no longer veil their faces. These signs and penalties, what does God say in the Bible? Make no oath, make no oaths, right? You make no oaths. Well, what are we doing all over the place here? We're making lots of oaths. This is another sign that we do in the temple. This hand has many meanings, not only, and then they bring them up and down. That's what they were saying in there. And the thumb is very purposeful here. And it's a Typhonian move, but also black magic wise, if you go into like the Ars Magica and different things, and I'm not a magical practitioner. I'm a studier. People come at me all the time, like people that do magic. They're like, oh, how do you know about magic? I'm like, listen, I know this. To be a heart surgeon, I don't have to operate on myself. I just have to do it on somebody else, or I have to study a lot about it. And everybody can study to be a doctor without cutting somebody open.
Yep.
So you can learn plenty of things. I'm not an expert. I'm not a practitioner. I'm just a researcher. So there's that. I definitely recommend Dr. Stephen Skinner's books. He's definitely a practitioner and an authority on that. So if I get anything wrong, I'm a researcher. That's how it is. So this Typhonian is chaos magic. This is not old enough for Joseph Smith. The OTO, which is Aleister Crowley, does this move, and it is exactly the same as what the Mormons do. And I find that very interesting. Who they are paying homage to? Well, I have a guess. I mean, so you have to understand in the temple ceremony, it's hours and hours long, and they have a creation story just like the Freemasons do. But when they're doing this, they're calling out to the God of this world, okay, as a representation of Adam's fall. And then in the little recreation, Adam looks up and who's there? He's crying out for God, but it's the God of this world. And Lucifer shows up. And so when
Wow.
Lucifer shows up, it keeps doing that. It's messing with me today. Lucifer shows up and says, "Hey, you're kind of naked. What are you doing?" And he notices that Lucifer has on an apron, but his is black. But it used to be a cool Masonic apron. And he says, "What is that?" And he says, "This is a symbol of my powers and priesthoods." Powers and priesthoods. What did I tell you were the keys of Solomon? The priesthood keys. I find it very fascinating. I'm on a hot trail for all that right now. Don't you worry. But I think it's very interesting that he says powers and priesthoods. That's not an accident. Nothing's an accident in these ceremonies. No words are accidents. No emotions are none of it. So then at this point, you're dressed up in all this crap and you don't have your apron on yet. And everybody's told to rise, please rise and put on your apron because Lucifer gives an apron to Adam. Why are we doing what the devil wants? That literally is what happens in the temple. And so
wait,
yeah.
so this whole thing is a reenactment of Lucifer. Pretty much what I don't know, you're not done with the story yet, but what I'm picking up is they're trying to say Lucifer is the one that clothed you and is taking care of you.
Well, partially, it is a Genesis story and God is involved, but also you have to understand the Mormons believe in pre-existence. They also believe that you get a new name, which is very Freemasonic. You get a new name and you're never supposed to tell it ever, 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 except to the fake guy behind the veil that's pretend Jesus, God, whatever. It's to pass the angels and sentinels. You have to know all the Freemason handshakes. And then you get to the veil and it's this big curtain thing and you put your hands through it, and they changed that too because they used to have to go breast to breast and stuff, and it got weird. God. Like, yeah, people were like, okay, we don't want to do that anymore because we're women and we got boobs and whatever. Yeah. So they keep evolving this ceremony that's supposedly given to them by an angel and shouldn't probably be changed at all, but they are changing it constantly. And also they're doing reenactments of things that don't make a whole lot of sense. But like I said, they also believe Lucifer is Jesus's brother. Yeah. So there's that. And there's a whole pre-existence story. Like they believe that you lived before we came to earth, before you were created, you lived in heaven and you had a whole life there and you chose every problem you ever had and all your stuff. And it's a whole big thing. But yeah, it's a lot. Saturday's Warrior episode on YouTube. I don't know if I posted it on my regular one yet, but it goes into the pre-existence and what they believe. So, this is mirrors, and they use these mirrors and they hold them one against another and they create this weird like portal, if you see.
Yeah, this just scared me when I was a kid.
Well, it should. It's witchcraft. And so it really does create a portal. And every single Mormon that's ever been through the temple and got married in the temple goes through this, because these mirrors are placed there purposely. You're kneeling over the altar and he's looking into that one and you're looking into that one. And they say you're going to be married for time and all eternity. Now, my question for you is that biblical? Is that in the Bible?
No.
It says what? Till death do you part,
No.
right? So it also says we won't need marriage in heaven, because people are like, well, I like the idea of that. Like, I could be married to my wife forever. Well, you can't change the Bible. And the Bible says we will be like the angels, and the angels didn't need to have procreation. In fact, the ones that decided to do that caused a whole mess for all of humanity. And so it's interesting to me that the Mormons are sticking with some theology that is more based upon fallen angels than real ones. So actually, they say angels don't even have a sex unless they want to adopt one, like for that day, to look like a man or look like a woman, but they're neither male nor female. So we will return to that when we become angels. So this is completely unbiblical, but also you are promising certain oaths and different things here in these mirrors, wearing your new underwear that we're going to get to, having your new name, having taken out all these oaths, having done all these signs and symbols. My question for you is, possibly, with my conjecture and the magic that they're completing and not knowing they're completing, and God knows what's in that altar, like, honestly, are you summoning entities into your marriage for sex magic? Right?
That's good.
Because
Go ahead.
these are the magical underwear that you have to wear day and night, all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless you're changing them. You have lots of pairs of these. They
Okay.
have recently changed them. And I thought this would never happen. It hasn't ever happened in hundreds and hundreds of years. They changed them to a more like a muscle shirt, like right there. So women can wear sleeveless, and a slip, which is really important because women were complaining about not ever being to air out.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. And so they changed it to a slip. I'm assuming it's kind of like a nightgown, so probably for nighttime or whatever. But you're supposed to wear these next to your skin. You're supposed to have them touching your skin first. Your bra goes over the top of these. They have magical symbols, the Masonic square and compass, and the ruler over the belly button. Now, this is an interesting piece of conjecture. If they're putting these signs and symbols above each place where your body has an opening, your umbilicus, your nipples, it doesn't say there's anything in the crotch area, but boy, does it make me wonder, because see, they have a panty area,
Yeah.
and you would never know. You would never, ever know. And so are you channeling things into openings of your body?
I mean, not to be vulgar or anything, but I mean, just living in this world, this looks like one of these sex outfits they sell at whatever Hot Topic or one of those places. Is exactly what they look like, just different colors, and some are fishnet. They have slits open where all the sexual parts are. I don't know about the belly button, but everything else looks just like it.
It's closed, but it's a mark. It's sewed together, but like, it's very interesting to me. And they're very ugly, and they've evolved. Like at first they were like long johns, and then, they evolve up to like boxer shorts and a t-shirt, which most people can handle. They're made out of all different materials. I hated it. They say that they're supposed to protect you at all times because you'll be more protected than anyone else. And I'm like, well, how come Joseph Smith died without his on? Just curious, but that's okay. Whatever. He had his talisman.
Yeah.
This is an old prophet of the church. He's now passed away. His name is Thomas S. Monson. He is shaking the hands of Baby Bush, the president, and they are clearly doing a Freemasonic handshake. In fact, this handshake was just done the other day as well with Biden and Trump.
Oh, no.
So, whatever, they're Masons. Okay. But you're not supposed to do things like this if you're in the Mormon church out in public ever. But he did it for the president. I have to tell you something. There's a very interesting correlation, and I do 2 other shows about this, is there's a huge correlation with the Mormon church and the CIA. And there's a huge correlation with the Mormon church and the mafia. There's a lot of connections with the Rotary Club. And I have to shout out LDS Abuse. He's a great guy. He's an amazing researcher, and his shows are on my channel about the Rotary Club. I touch on it, but I do more the Mormon Mafia because he has like researched it so amazingly. So definitely check that out. This is again our Skull and Bones prophet, and he did something that no one else has ever done. He's 100 years old, by the way.
Oh, wow.
He was able to secure land and build a temple in somewhere that I never thought I would see one. And that is at Rome, right down the street from, see how this says? Italy, right by the Vatican.
Yeah, I was about to say the Vatican. Where else would it be? Where else would it be in Italy?
But it has never been allowed to do that ever before. And it says he's doing what? He's holding the hand on the keys of the kingdom. Interesting. He's also doing a Masonic grip right there, just so you guys know. That's never an accident. Never, never, never. The current Pope and the church, I believe, are definitely working towards a one world order. I believe this is all magical and they probably will connect through masonry. But anyway, the Rotary Club goes into a lot of that. This right here are some symbols on the temple, but also this right here is the symbol for the Melchizedek priesthood, to which every guy holds, like that gives a blessing. And this right here is the seal and sigil of Mammon, and Mammon's a demon. Mammon is over money. So you tell me what they're doing here. It's identical.
I've been to the Vatican a long time ago, and just being there, nothing makes any sense. Like when I went there,
I've been there. It was
look
creepy.
up, you got these demonic statues everywhere. You got these creepy, these creepy statues that have no relation to anything of what I'm being taught in the Bible.
But this is the temple. This is Mormons, not even the Vatican. But I've been there too, and it's creepy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff everywhere.
This sign they're wearing proudly, and it's a demonic sign. Now, remember what I said about working with things, and if they're in a seal, see how that's sealed in the middle with the circle?
Yeah.
It's closed, and they're bossing it around. If it's open, then they're working with it. Well, it's not closed. They're working directly with it. So this is where we get into the Bat Cave and a little touch on why I think the Mormons have a lot of control. First of all, on the day that Diddy was arrested, my phone dinged, and they know I'm often looking up things about genealogy, and they sent me this, and I thought that was so strange. I'm like, all of the board of 23andMe resigned on the day that P. Diddy was arrested. All of them, every single one, except the boss. The boss is Anwar Chicky, and Anwar Chicky's sister ran YouTube until her untimely demise at only 50-something years old, just barely in the summer. Also, her son committed suicide right before that, like 4 months before. I find it funny whenever you find a trail of death. Usually there's something going on.
Always.
But the funny thing about 23andMe is no, the Mormons don't own it. However, the Mormons do own a program called FamilySearch.org, and they are more adept at genealogy than anyone else, I would state, probably in the world. They are very into genealogy, and all of their records for genealogy go into the side of a mountain that I'm showing you called the Granite Genealogical Vaults. And all of this information is cataloged and categorized and dumped into 23andMe and Ancestry.com and all the things. So all of this information is there for them to see. And this is the inside of one hallway, one little tiny space of that big mountain.
So, and these little cabinets or whatever, is it like little pieces of blood, little drops of blood, or what do they have?
The genealogy is actually just your family history. However, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
There's no way they don't have a little piece of something of you. I don't know.
I think I concur, and I feel that these drawers are a peculiar size. These drawers are like a letterbox size, and I bet they're really long, like in the
Scroll.
bank box, the bank boxes. And when you are born in America, you get something called a PKU test. And I know that because I've done many of them as a nurse. And these are a prick on your baby's heel, and it's dots of blood that they feel, but those cards go through and are on litmus paper. So there's copies for more than one person. I always found that curious. I thought, I wonder why there's 3 of these together. Like, I get the government gets one, and like they're going to test one, but what's the other one for? Well, these
Mormons.
cards are good forever. The blood has to be exactly perfect. If you don't have them exactly specifically perfect, they'll send it back and make you do it again. And everybody gets this to supposedly test for milk allergy that makes you handicapped if you don't know about it.
No.
Right. Okay. Sounds
Ridiculous.
plausible, but ridiculous. Yeah. So they are exactly this size. They are the size of a letter. Exactly.
Interesting.
So these are some quotes about humanity and what they can become from some of the presidents of the church. As humanity now is, God once was. As God now is, humanity may become. This is actually Joseph himself saying God was once as we are now and is an exalted person and sits enthroned in yonder heavens. And that is the great secret.
Blasphemy.
He died shortly after this. Yeah.
That's why. That's why he said that.
Yep. He got murdered. Well, I
Blasphemy.
think I think they killed him 2 reasons. He was sleeping with everyone's wives, and he was spilling all the secrets of what they believe. All Freemasons believe they can like exalt and all this stuff, like, to be a god and whatever. So, I
They ain't
mean,
going nowhere. They
it's a little
just for
silly.
just for the record, nobody's becoming a god ever.
No. And then this is on the actual temple itself. Okay.
Baphomet.
Remember what I told you about the seal? This looks like a seal. This is a
Yeah.
pentacle, and this is a pentagram. And this pentagram is pointing down. Pentagrams aren't always bad, but when they point downward, it's not the best. It's also the sign of Satan, the satanic church, when they're upside down like that, because when it's up, it's pointing to the heavens. When it's down, it's not. And this pentacle is encased. Now, I'm doing a lot of research on this right now, but here I was thinking, like, just for conjecture sake, what if all these names we're bringing to the temple and doing all this work for, and we're bringing this in, we're bringing it in and summoning, right? They have to stay. They have to do what you say, right? Summoning. And they're there and they can't go anywhere after you do this weird stuff, right? You're binding them on accident. Like, you wouldn't know if you're just a regular congregation. You don't know, but you're pushed to do this like multiple times a month for all your entire life. Okay. Like, some people are cranking out hundreds and hundreds of dead people every week. And so you've got this seal, and then you've got an open one. So if you couldn't go anywhere else and you're commanding them and working with them and they're pointing down, who are you commanding that for? Right? Like, that just seems very strange to me. And in my conjecture and my studies, I worry oftentimes that possibly, this could be a trap. This could be a trap for people, for our loved ones, for people, and I'm not saying God can't intervene and do whatever God wants to do. He totally can. But like, it makes you wonder what the hell they're doing there. And this is my last slide, and this is the Salt Lake City Temple. And again, we see a whole bunch of Masonic things. We see moonstones, cloudstones, all kinds of representations of Big Dippers, and it's actually built on top of an astrological whole situation with all the months. I think I might have put that in here.
No, that's
Let's
very
see.
interesting. Always,
Joseph was I didn't put it in here. He was very into astrology, even though Mormons are never supposed to do it. This is from his journal, Joseph's journal. We're never supposed to even read our horoscope as a Mormon, but apparently he can align the stars and suns and moons and all the things. And that's not for you dummies. That's for the top. So
Sounds like-
this is also something I want to say as a Mormon, with my family all being Mormon, with all the people that I was ever associated with being Mormon. You don't know this stuff. No, nobody knows this. No, my mother-in-law and her family are extremely kind, nice people. They're good people. They are just trying to go to heaven, and they think this is the way you do that. Okay. But it's not. And I don't think they realize the error of their ways. And it's sad and it's scary to me.
It is.
And that is why I speak out, because I feel like, okay, you've got these people that are doing all this stuff, and you don't realize when you're in the middle of it that maybe you're doing it for a reason. Because once again, what do we get from necromancy, right? Necromancy gives you the power to talk to dead things or demonic things or whatever that case may be. But why do you even want to do that, right? Because you want information.
Mhm.
So if you want information, and this is a huge loose grab, like I think it is, where does the power go? What do we call the president of the church? Prophet, seer, and revelator. Well, isn't that fancy?
With everything, everything is so crazy. So I'm trying to unpack everything. So with everything you're telling me, it just sounds like almost like every other religion. It kind of sounds a little bit of the Catholic Church. It sounds like a little bit of the Islamic stuff. Sounds like a little bit of a Jewish. Like it's all like all the symbols, all the little rituals. It's like taking a piece from all of them and putting it together. That's what I took from it. And just for a little quick story, I knew these 3 Mormons that used to live in the apartment complex I used to live in, and they're just very interesting. That's why I'm kind of laughing, thinking about the memory of them. But so they just come bug me for about 2 months. They bugged me to knock on my door 3-4 times, and I said, "Hey man, like no mas, I don't want nothing that you're trying to give away." So they were respectful. Okay, no problem. But no matter what, I still had to cross these guys' paths almost every day because we lived next to each other. And I don't know why, but they'd walk down this path like 10 times a day, which is really weird because I only go down that path like 2 or 3 times when I leave to go to work, maybe on a break and when I get back from work. But I don't know why they're always walking up and down. But anyways, I have to say hi to them, say hi to them. They gave me their number. Here's a church, blah, blah, blah. So I had to get a surgery done on my shoulder, and I have anxiety when I get into the little pod, the MRI thing. So at the time, I had no one to go with me at the time it was scheduled. I just usually want someone there talking to me so I don't get in my head. So I just, hey, you know what? These guys said that if I need anything from them, they would, help me out. So I said, all right, I'm gonna call them. So I call them, hey, dude, can you guys come with me to my MRI? And they were very nice. They all came, and they were there. They talked to me. They were cool. So I kind of befriended them. And then after they started talking to me about the Bible, and then, you have it all wrong, man. Jesus and God are brothers, and there's like all this planet stuff they were talking about. There's the different planets, and God's like a giant. All this weird stuff they were telling me. So then one day they're like, "Oh, can we pray for you?" Blah blah blah. I was all right, yeah, go ahead and pray for me. So then I forgot how they did it, but one got on their knees and 2 were standing up, and I was just like sitting down on the couch, and he was like put his hand on my head, and he was saying something. I forgot what he said, but he ended up explaining, like, right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to channel God through me, and God's going to speak to you through me. I was like, all right. In my head, I'm like, dude, this is getting a little weird because I know for a fact that's not possible. So, at least not the way he was doing it just so easily. And then so he starts praying and he starts saying all these things. Oh, heal him, heal him. And he starts like having like a little seizure, like vibrating. And he starts like speaking in tongues, and his eyes are like kind of rolling back. And I'm like looking at the other guys, and the other guys like assure me this is God going through him. And then it lasted about a minute. I said, all right, guys, this is done. I'm done with. I don't want to do this anymore. Can you guys, you don't have to pray for me anymore. He doesn't look good. He looks like he's sick. He looks like having a seizure. And then like, no, we have to do this. I'm no, dude is like, let's get him out of here. Like, let's snap him out of this. And then the guy didn't want to move. He was still like on his knees vibrating. So I got him and I said, hey, dude, wake up. And then I check him. His eyes, he came back into consciousness. And I was like, then I started, right away, boom, because I had demonic experiences way before when I was a kid. And I was like, this, like, whatever happened, I just saw 2 different people, because when he came back, you know, even his face changed a little bit. And I was like, hey man, you guys gotta get out of here, man. I was like, this is a little weird for me. He's like, you know, thank you guys for helping me out, but you know, this is a little too much. And then they're like, no, we need to pray for you again. I'm all, dude, get out of my apartment now. I was like, I'm trying to be nice. Like, leave. No, one more. I was like, dude, I was like, do you really want this to go? Because I'm gonna whip your guys' asses. Sorry for the language. I was getting upset. It was like a good 2-3 minutes of me telling them to leave. Like, dude, get out. Like, leave, man. So then they
got to go.
Yeah, I was like, we're sorry. I was like, dude. And then when after, you know, they got outside, you know, I kind of calmed down and said, hey, my bad for getting crazy. But man, you guys gotta, man, that was weird, man. I was like, are you okay, dude? I asked the guy, you okay?
Scared me.
So, no, that was the God. It was God talking through you. I was like, oh, all right, man. I guess so, dude. So then, you know, I didn't really talk to him. I didn't invite him over anymore, that's for sure. But I still, you know, I still said hi and bye because, you know, they're my neighbors. You know, I'm not going to start beef with them. You know, I don't want to have any trouble with my neighbors. So I just say hi and bye. And then one day they came knocking on my door and they're like, hey, Lionel, brother Lionel. They call me brother. Hey, brother Lionel. I was like, we're going to move. And I was like, oh man, that sucks, man. You know, whatever. They're like, so we want to give you some gifts. And they were nice. So they gave me like, one of the guys was Hawaiian. So he gave me like, you know, the polka shells and nothing weird, you know, and they gave me a Mormon Bible. Hey, just to change your mind, bro. I got that thing, threw it away right after. And I threw that thing right away. But they gave me a Mormon Bible, their Facebook handle. And anyways, that was my experience.
Oh, wow.
They're cool people. And that experience just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Man. I was like, what's going on?
Well, and it makes you wonder, like, okay, they're doing this with you as a non-Mormon, as a guy that's not initiated, if we want to use that word, right?
Yeah.
Initiated into their stuff that they're doing. And if they're doing that with you, what are they doing behind closed doors?
Yeah, with the people that believe in their stuff, you know what I mean?
You have to understand, even me, even my family, though we got to a higher level, although I will say I do believe my grandma and my uncle both had the second anointing, both uncles. And the second anointing is something different. And when you get the second anointing, you can do any sin because your place has been made sure already, because you went and spoke to Jesus at the temple, actually, and that your place has been made sure in heaven. So you just can't kill anybody. Don't kill anybody. And if you rape, pillage, steal, whatever that is, that's okay. And so they don't want you to do it. And what they say to this is, well, if they're that good of people, they wouldn't. People be peopling. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something about people. And anytime you give them power and money, I'm sorry, that's a little bit scary. And here's the thing. We have some people in the Mormon church that kind of fell off the rails and went into some deep stuff. Like I told you about the other brothers and learning some stuff about old school Joseph. And they went crazy and she killed her kids, Lori Vallow. And she didn't, well, I can't prove she killed her kids, but they sacrificed her children. And when they found them, I'll be damned if a magic circle wasn't drawn around these kids' bones. And here's the thing. When you're talking about a place that has that much influence, and you know what she told everyone in court? My kids are happy. They're good. You don't need to worry about my kids. And she's in prison and doesn't give a shit. And I'm going to tell you guys, she was involved in a whole bunch of stuff. But why? How does this lady, when we get done here, you look up Lori Vallow. I have a whole thing on her too. But when you look this lady up, she looks like every other pretty, nice Mormon lady I ever met. And she wasn't crazy before, because I talked to her niece. I have a whole show coming out with her. And she wasn't. And so what did they get into that made them feel that this was okay? Right. So here's my conjecture on that. When you go home after you're in the temple and you have your feet washed by one of the big top dogs in the church and you get this second anointing, and I'm telling you this, there is a major patriarchy in that church. But guess who seals that last blessing? Like the men put on your head, you go home and you do that in your marital bedroom. But it isn't the man that seals that blessing. It's the wife. Now you tell me they're not channeling some massive mother in heaven energy. And you know about the mother in heaven.
It's
The
a feminine,
Mormons,
divine, whatever they call it, the feminine spirit, the divine, feminine queen god, or the god
Queen
of
Asherah, not Astaroth, Asherah. And this goes into Babylonian stuff.
Yeah.
All of this stuff does, by the way. And this is, they will tell you, Mormons will tell you, if you ever see another Mormon missionary, be like, bro, do you guys got a mother in heaven? And they'll be like, oh, she's too holy. We don't talk about her. You keep the women repressed and just having baby after baby after baby after baby. What does that do when you're fulfilling that motherly call? This is a fertility goddess. You tell me. Like, this is obviously helping them. And
Yeah.
then it makes more members because you've got kids like me born into it that don't know any damn better. And then on top of that, you're making the female seal the top blessing. So who is their God? Who is their God?
A female
That's my
God.
problem. Yeah. And here's the thing. If they want to come out tomorrow and say, this is what we believe, and we believe in Asherah and Mammon and all these gods that I just showed you, and they were honest about it and they let their people choose, then I would shut up, because then it's your choice. Then that's on you. That's not on, the church, because they lied to you about it. But when they're lying to people, and these are the nicest people, you have to understand Mormons are really kind and good
Yeah.
people. They're good people. And the top people at the top, even the way he looked, I showed you him. He looks crazy. They all look creepy as shit. Like,
Yeah.
go back and look at all of them. They all look weird. And I feel like that's because they are channeling entities. And I know this sounds crazy. I believe they are opening up for things to come inward. And we
Oh, yeah.
all know that that's like a possibility. Like, what did Jesus do? Everybody thinks it's crazy, but what was his whole thing when he was here? Casting
Casting
things
out the
out of
demons.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That got here
So,
from summoned, being summoned.
yeah, exactly. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, is it crazy? Is it that crazy?
It's not crazy to me. I mean, you probably haven't really heard of my show, but man, I talk to people like you all the time. Not like you when I mean like
Okay.
your
Right,
experience,
right.
but other experiences. I mean, I've had people tell me that they had some demonic spirit guide follow them since they were a kid. I mean, I've heard so many different things. Someone saw a gray alien turn into this, and werewolves and vampires, demonic encounters, poltergeist, witchcraft. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff, but I haven't heard this. So it doesn't end. It doesn't
Oh, it
end.
won't. I have, when I say I do a lot of shows, when you first contacted me and I was like, well, what show do you want? That's because you're right. It doesn't end. And
No.
Mormonism is the gift that keeps on giving. This goes into the CIA. There would be no Las Vegas if not for crooked, corrupt Mormons. They took it from the mob. They took it from the mob and they kicked the mob out. And they were all in the CIA. And the CIA purposely recruits Mormons. In fact,
Wow.
within 40 miles of where I live, there is an Air Force base, there is the FBI, there is the CIA, there is the NSA, there is the big, huge government facility that holds all the internet stuff, like all that huge thing, all the internet stuff, right close probably to where the other stuff is over there with the Batman cave. And there is the IRS.
Oh, we all love the IRS, don't we now? Man,
But within 40 miles of me. And I'm like,
well, yeah, I
that's
mean,
weird.
it's not really weird. It just makes sense. Everything that you're saying, if you look up all this stuff in other religions, you could just find all these other coincidences too, like how all the Catholic Church are built on ancient sites. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
on and on
But
it goes.
I dare say this, and I will say this, is the Mormon church has been hit. Like, they're like the sly guy. They're not the shot caller. They're the guy that runs this bitch. Like,
Oh, okay.
they're the guy that runs everything, because they were underestimated and they were able to take over some things. And I want to tell you one last thing before we shut it
Oh,
down.
go ahead.
Who is the number one landholder right now in America for food?
Oh, wait a minute. I think I know this question. I could be wrong. I heard it was Bill Gates. Isn't he buying
It
everything?
is Bill Gates.
No.
Who is the number two?
Shit, you got me
I'll
on
tell
that.
you.
Elon
The
Musk?
Mormon church. No,
Oh,
the
you gotta go
Mormons.
Elon Church.
And you know what? What is the number one holding share-wise? The top 10 holdings of the church are very interesting. But the number one spot is, guess. Just said his name.
Oh, you said Bill Gates?
Microsoft.
Oh, Microsoft.
They are working together. And this goes back to Nazis. This goes back to IBM. This goes back a long way, and it's very concerning because the Mormons believe in a one world order, and the one world order came from John D. and even before him. This goes back to Nimrod if you really want to get into it, but like we're talking about people that have been communing with evil things, and every single time they push for one world order. That's very interesting to me.
With that being said, the final religion kind of sounds like they're all just gonna kind of say, we're all similar. So like, for example, like I said, I see Islam rising up right now, right? Islam's rising up. Okay. It seems like they're going to be the ones to be somewhat part of the new religion or whatever. But then you tell me all this Mormon stuff. It sounds similar to that. So I'm just assuming this whole new religion, the one world, the new age, whatever you want to call it, the Antichrist religion, is going to be similar to all of this. It's going to be similar to what you're saying. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, and let me show you this for everybody that's waiting for their savior. And do not forget, people, that why did we kill Jesus? Because we wanted a king. And what do they want right now? Who are they paying homage to? Almost more than anybody I've ever seen. And I do not do politics.
Trump.
Righto. And I do not do politics, people. So don't come at me with it. But I want to show you a couple things. This guy right here. Can you see it okay?
Yeah. The guy, Elon Musk, and some dude on the left.
What does the dude on the left look like? A Mormon. He is a Mormon. His name is Jared Birchall. Okay. Jared Birchall has been Elon Musk's money man since 2016, even though he really didn't have the status or anything to do that. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't amazing. They actually started a company at a starting point. They were both working at a company called The Boring Company. Guess what The Boring Company does?
Oh, I have no idea.
They make tunnels because they bore into the earth.
Oh yes, I know Elon Musk has those tunnels too. He's testing those Tesla tunnels where you just kind of shoot your car through the tunnel like 150 miles an hour. I mean, that has to leave.
Yeah, Jared Birchall helps him with all of that, and he is his top money man. Now I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the new Secretary of Defense that was called by our Trumper. And I just think they're all corrupt. Just so people know, I'm a semi-anarchist, and I think they all work together. But I say semi because it makes me sad, because I used to really believe in patriotism, and my brother served, and almost every person in my family has served, and my uncle was a Green Beret and super like big up, and it makes me sad. But this is Pete Hegseth, and Trump appointed him for defense secretary, and he has the Jerusalem cross of the Knights Templar on his chest. Also, this cross, just so people know, it's an ancient Templar cross from Solomon's Temple. We're going back to all the Solomon stuff. And he actually got in trouble for it because he didn't rise up in the ranks as best as he should have because of this. He was excluded from a couple things. It's about money.
Interesting. Wow.
But here is this. And I've showed you a bunch of things. And when I tell you hands are vitally important, the handshake that I showed you between the other prophet of the church and the president was this identical one. This is called the lion's paw, or the grip of the lion's paw. For us as Mormons, it's called the true sign of the nail. However, this is important, and it is a Masonic grip. Also, the way Trump's hand is, I don't know that your hand would be held like that. That seems very purposeful, as well as Joe Biden's. Yeah. I've done some research into it, and I'm not going to go 100% because people will say I'm wrong, and that's fine. You can say I'm wrong, but there's something else going on here. And when you know about Trump, did you know that he had, I'm just going to shut this now, a full Mar-a-Lago, at Mar-a-Lago, he had a full replica of the Ark of the Covenant built, and it is an exact replica, exact. Not only that, they sent it. Now, it spent some time at Mar-a-Lago, but I do believe they've sent it off to Israel at this point. And wow, the guy, the guy that he appointed there, not that guy specifically, another one, is got the biggest drive ever to finish the third temple. And we know that the heifers are ready.
I heard
We
about
know that this stuff is coming in. Now, my guess on religion and how the one world religion will work is actually Freemasonry,
yeah.
because you can be anything as
Yeah.
long as you believe in a higher power.
Uh,
You can just not be an atheist.
manifestation.
And it's very concerning to me. And like I said, I hope that Trump is an answer. I hope that things will happen well, but my brain and my eyes, we have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And when you know things like I know, that the church in their one fund that they have, just one, has over $3 billion in it. I don't know, man. Like,
That's
I've never known a billionaire that gave two shits about anybody but themselves.
insane. That is insane. But
So we should be worried and keeping an eye. That's all.
I
Have
know
eyes to see and ears to hear. Yeah.
that's something that the listeners gotta understand, because I talk to people all the time and you can show them all this and they'll still say that it's all fake, and they don't even believe in their own birth sometimes. But I definitely took a lot from this. It's very, very interesting. I learned a lot today. It's crazy with everything. I mean, even the baptism has a golden calves, reminds me of the Bible. I mean, everything is just so demonic. And then you have, the sigils, and, it looks like Harry Potter symbolism, but
Yes.
Joseph Smith, and, it's just it just points more and more to I'm on the right direction. I'm serving the right God, with Jesus Christ, of course.
Stay away from a religion and find God. Believe in the Bible. Check out the extra canonical books that they removed. Check out the things that make the sense come back to sensible, and pray. You got to have discernment. So, yeah.
I've read the extra canonical books, and they're very, very interesting. I actually have a whole series on it on my podcast, especially the one of Jasher. Jasher's really good. I like that
Jasher's
one.
huge. Yep,
I like that one. That was very interesting, especially with the Hebrews having like superpowers. I mean, Judah got like a 90-pound rock, threw like a baseball, crushed a rock with his hands, jumped 60 feet in the air. I mean, all these crazy. I mean, I don't know how true they are, but I mean, I don't know why they'd be a lie. And talking about how perfect with the bow, they're slaying giants, like cutting through them like butter. I mean, there's definitely the spirit of God.
Yeah, Jasher and Enoch actually tie together the Old Testament and the New Testament, and why people can't fathom in their mind, like, well, why is the God of the Old Testament not the God of the New Testament? He is. You just are missing something. Yeah. So it sounds like you have a great podcast on those. So people should check those out if they haven't.
They're very interesting. But thank you very much for doing this. We have a question for you. You recorded it, right? So can you send it to me?
Oh, no. I'll, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's yours.
And again, thank you very much. I learned a lot. I like talking to you, even though, you spoke a lot, which is good because, you're kind of teaching something. But in the future, I would like to do a podcast with you. We could kind of go back and forth more about some of this stuff, because I have a lot of questions. But I know we're short for time, because I do have a lot of questions, but I have them all. If you saw me looking down a lot, I like to type in on my notes.
I can't see anything when I'm presenting. I can't even see anybody. So that's fine. But I don't mind at all. I like to come in, with a lot of knowledge at first, just because I think it helps the viewers see that this isn't what you thought it was, especially if you're Mormon out there, and especially if you are Black or brown. You need to check into this. It's not okay. The way they have treated their brothers and sisters of other colors is, I mean, yeah, they fixed it, but me as a person with a mixed family, that was a no-go for me as well. That's very upsetting for me. So you guys can check out the racial parts of that as well.
Definitely send that to me. That's interesting.
Yeah. Before 1978, they were considered doomed. And actually the brown brothers and sisters were less doomed, but the Black ones were considered permanently not going to heaven until 1978.
That's all racism, the evolution. What's that guy's asshole's name? Darwin. That was all based off racism. There are Black people were like subhuman to them or something like that, you know?
They have a whole story about it in the pre-existence, and it's BS. And you know, I have a half black niece. I have, you know, a
Send that to
Latino
me.
stepdad. It's very upsetting.
I would love to read that though. Send me that racial thing. I would love to check
There's
that.
a cartoon. I'll send it to you. It's actually really great. I know it sounds funny.
I seen a little
but
clip of it on Instagram. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I saw that
it's
how
on my Instagram. Go
how
to my
black people
Instagram
came
and
to
watch
be.
that.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that. I just thought it was a joke. I was like, "What is this? Some kind of parody?"
No.
I was like,
Nope.
what?
That's before 1978. That is their theology about the black race, and it's very
I thought it
upsetting.
was a parody. It's so like whoever believes stupid enough to look at that, like it looks like a joke. It looks like a South Park episode. But anyways,
Yeah, so upsetting. Yes. So thank you again for
thank you
having
very
me. I
much.
would love to come back. And I am Hedi Luv at the Unfiltered Rise. Check me out. See what you think. I'm happy to come back sometime.
Thank you, and God bless you very much. I'm
God
just gonna cut the show off. I just realized that we're doing the video, so there's no point in me recording the audio because they wouldn't be able to see
Yeah,
what you're
it'll
showing.
come. Yeah, it'll come with it.
All
Well,
right.
and you can separate the audio. When I send it, I can send it separately, like the audio and the video file separately if you do
No,
audio.
just send me the whole video. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you very
no
much.
problem. You
Just
bet.
whenever
Have a
you're
good
ready,
one.
have a good night, everybody. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.
See.
Perfect.
All right.
All
Nice.
right. I'll push end recording.